Member for Greatling.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I rise today to speak to this ministerial report handed down by the Treasurer today. Madam Speaker, when a lot of people woke up this morning and woke to see the federal budget, they will see $17 billion in tax cuts. But what that really means, Madam Speaker, to most Territorians is 70 cents a day returned to their pocket. This, whilst Northern Territory, as we move towards $11 billion worth of debt, Madam Speaker, much of that accrued under the previous Labor government. $7.1 billion, as the Leader of the Opposition stated, will be provided to the Northern Territory from the federal government as part of this budget. But let's be very clear here, Madam Speaker. That $7.1 billion from the feds to the NT, it sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But over in Queensland, in January of this year, $7.2 billion was put aside for the Bruce Highway. That's one highway in Queensland getting as much money committed to it as the entire Northern Territory is getting committed to it in this next financial year. One highway compared to the entire Northern Territory, Madam Speaker, and that's why we always talk about equity and about fighting for our fair share here in the Northern Territory. It doesn't seem like the federal government are ensuring that the Northern Territory is, as the Treasurer has put it, is given a hand up to get us all out of the mess the former Labor government have put us into. You could literally wipe the Territory debt, giving us the ability to invest in key priorities, ensure Territory and Northern Territory can deliver for our country in regards to economic development with that $17 billion that the federal government are going to be spending, giving people that 70 cents per day, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, defence is one of our key priorities. And for our country, the NT needs to have investment to ensure the stability of our region and security of the country. Madam Speaker, unless the federal government are worried about penguins invading from Antarctica, our defence capabilities need to be in the north. They need to be up here in Northern Australia, Madam Speaker. An increased focus on basing troops and strategic defence infrastructure in the north will need to be implemented to properly defend our nation in a time of unrest. Recent announcements of troops being redeployed to South Australia might look good on paper, Madam Speaker. However, to redeploy to the NT would see a much more immediate response should it be required. Infrastructure investment is another key priority for the Northern Territory. Our roads, and many members have spoken about this morning, Madam Speaker, both the Deputy Leader, the Member for Berkeley and the Treasurer have all spoken about how important roads are and how our roads here in the Northern Territory, especially the Stuart Highway, have been left to deteriorate in recent times and recent years. I remember almost losing the Deputy Chief Minister in a pothole near Tennant Creek, and I note that he's also spoken this morning about the state of that road, Madam Speaker. The critical piece of infrastructure is so important to ensure the transportation of goods and people up and down our federally recognised highway. And I again point to the fact that there's been a $7.2 billion commitment to the Bruce Highway, a 1,600-kilometre stretch of highway in Queensland. Yet here in the Northern Territory, we still see our national highway go underwater, washed away during years. Madam Speaker, in my hometown of Alice Springs, we have once again been dudded. The federal member for Lingiari, Marion Scrimgeour, promised the town of Alice Springs and sporting fans a grandstand at the CDU Oval in 2021. Yet years later, we are now facing a federal election commitment, which is nothing more than another empty promise from the feds, whilst Alice Springs is missing out again. There was $250 million as part of a support package that the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was forced to make during our crime crisis of Labor's making in Alice Springs. It has delivered very little for our town, Madam Speaker, and our government is now being told during briefings that the money is fully committed. Fully committed to what, I ask, Madam Speaker? During briefings, it looked like the member for Gwadja has ended up with plenty of money for his electric being spent. Surprise, surprise. Whilst the town in the centre of the furrow has once again missed out, Madam Speaker. Remote communities in the member for Quadja's electorates are getting millions spent on splash pads and BMX tracks, and I certainly don't hold that against them, Madam Speaker. But as we've said, the whole reason why that $250 million was promised as part of that was due to the increase in crime that we saw in Alice Springs. That is what led to the Prime Minister of Australia being brought to our town and yet we are still waiting to see a lot of that money spent on the ground. I know also in Alice Springs we've certainly been waiting for our own splash pad for some time, Madam Speaker. 8 years under Labor, we were yet to see that, and now it's up to our government to ensure that we can deliver on some of these promises, Madam Speaker, that have been promised for so long, yet never delivered. Don't even get me started, Madam Speaker, on the National Aboriginal Art Gallery. Madam Speaker, if the federal government wanted to support the Northern Territory, if they were serious about getting us out of the position their Labor mates have gotten us into, so we can better support Territorians, they need to put their hands in their pocket and ensure we are getting our fair, Madam Speaker, to ensure we can, as we keep saying here in this chamber, Madam Speaker, rebuild our great territory. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.